Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, Cliff, how you doing?
I'm
How
good.
you
How are
how
you?
you feeling? Are you okay?
Yeah, I had a bit of a slip and a fall down the stairs about 40 minutes ago. So yeah, in a lot of pain. I've hurt I overextended my left calf. So I've kind of pulled something because it hurts a lot. So yeah, I'll just
My
stay seated and not
goodness.
move.
Well,
Teach me for doing DIY. That's what it is.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're able to make it, able to join me. It would have been a little lonely for me today,
Been a
as
Brandon show.
this is. That's right. I don't even have my glasses. They're at the eye doctor getting repaired. I feel like a totally different person. Total look like a total stranger. But no, it's good. It's good to be back. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
We got delayed a week. It was 4th of July here in the U.S., which is our Independence Day holiday last Thursday when we normally do it, and couple that with summer vacations and injuries.
Yeah.
we're dropping like flies. But no, that's okay. We've got a really good agenda today. So let's jump into it so we
Yep.
can we can get Cliff to some pain meds. So let me share the link to this in the chat here. As always, you can find our stand-up notes on the wiki. There we go. Now you can grab them in the chat. And what we want to kick off the stand-up today with is the new releases. We pushed out a lot of stuff this month, and I want to make sure we highlight all the amazing work from everybody in the community because I was going back and I was like, when was our last stand up? It was about a month and a week ago. And if we look at all these releases that have come out in just the last 3 weeks. So even I think June 7th was after our last stand up. I think this was the result from last month's stand up. We pushed out some bug fixes. So if you've had if you've been having troubles with snack bar anchoring on Android or icon tint color behavior crashing, those were fixed in 9.1. And then we released camera view. So just 3 weeks ago, version 1.0.0. That's right. Get excited. This is probably, gosh, the biggest feature that's been asked for from the community. Right up there with Media Element that James has done an awesome job implementing and continues to do an awesome job implementing for us. We now have camera view. So it's back. It's the same camera view you know and love from the Xamarin Community Toolkit. Some slight naming modifications, some slight API designs that we're actually still working on. We're going to talk about a little bit of the suggestions today and also just some bugs. We forgot to implement a couple things like I know the torch, the flashlight right now does nothing. We've got the API stubbed in there, but we haven't implemented it yet. I apologize for that one. I totally missed that when I reviewed the pull request, but excited to have it out there because it does work. We're gonna keep adding some more stuff to it. And in fact, if we scroll up, well, we can't miss out on the media element lock screen. We debuted this in our last stand up, and this is just super cool. James did an awesome job. And if you've ever played a song, a video on your phone, you lock the display, it's still playing in the background. And then when you look at your lock screen on Android, on iOS, you'll typically see like a little thumbnail from maybe the album art or a video thumbnail, and you can control it right there on the lock screen. Well, we got that now. James Neo Matrix, he's amazing. He implemented this pretty much all himself, and it looks so good. I think my first comments when I was playing around with this and reviewing this PR was just like, "This looks professional." like, like I can
I
just
wasn't expecting.
add. Well, you know, kind of when you learn .NET MAUI, you learn how to like put a button on the screen, and you can make your first app. But then, even once you're 90% there, it's like, well, 90% there in quotes. Then you take just as much time, if not more, with like just the little details that really refine it, really make it polished and professional. And now with this, with Media Element, we get this right out of the box. So, uh, so excited for this. Thank you, James. Thank you, James.
That's what I
Uh,
love about the community is that someone's kind of put all that time and effort in, and giving it to the community to use, and we all benefit from that. Camera view, is awesome. The media element is awesome, and it's all part of the community. And it's the first thing that I know I download is Community Toolkit after sort of starting a new project. I wish it was in the box and I didn't have to sort of do that button, but be nice one day maybe.
yeah, hopefully someday. I will say, every so often I'll hear rumors that, like, hey, the Maui team was talking about adding the community toolkit to the template. I'm like, that'd be cool. But we just passed 2 million downloads for the community
Ooh.
toolkit, which is incredible. So
Yeah.
yeah, we must be doing something right, right? or the community's doing something right. James Neo Matrix is definitely doing something right. Um,
It goes to
so
show what the Community Toolkit is about. It's all those little paper cuts, the little things that are missing, from Maui in general, that the community have pulled together, and they live in the Community Toolkit for everyone to enjoy and use. It's the first place I look. If I've got something I can't quite work out how to do in normal Maui without Community Toolkit, I looked up, wondered if the Community Toolkit's got it, and invariably it has, because we all had the same problems. We're all developing apps. They're all different, but they all had the same issues and problems and kind of hurdles to jump over. So yeah, I
yeah, I I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm definitely biased, as you are probably too, as a fellow maintainer. But I'll even say, shout out to the Gone Mobile podcast. Quick tangent. If you don't know, John Dick, longtime Xamarin employee, Microsoft employee, still working on .NET MAUI. Alan Ritchie, you know him, you love him from his open source libraries. Like Shiny has been a critical part of the Xamarin and .NET MAUI community for many, many years now. They have this awesome podcast called Gone Mobile that every .NET MAUI developer should subscribe to, assuming you enjoy podcasts as much as I do. But the reason I bring this up, it is an amazing podcast and everybody should subscribe, but they were chatting about the toolkit, I think this week episode or maybe last week's. And yeah, just like you said, Cliff, Alan, he's been doing this for over a decade now. And he's like, yeah, I'll still bring in the community toolkit because they've got some converters in there. So why should I write my own isbool converter when I can just leverage one that already exists? So what other cool stuff we did? We fixed then we fixed camera immediately. I had added a dependency to communitytoolkit.maui.core, which is another one of our NuGet packages for camera, trying to basically save some code so we didn't have to rewrite the same class twice. I thought I was being clever, but I completely forgot about our whole CI/CD pipeline and how all that works. And when Gerald pushed out camera, he kind of mentioned it. He's like, hey, I noticed we have a dependency on Maui.core, but for some reason it's referencing version 1 of communitytoolkit.maui.core. And it's like, oh no, I've made a big mistake. It was literally just like, I saved 20 lines of code. I was like, you know what, Gerald, like we could spend weeks completely re-engineering our CI/CD pipeline, or let me just go in and fix that. So, so I went in and fixed it. Now, the camera NuGet package does not have a dependency on core, and it'll work.
Did you put a comment in? Don't delete this code, otherwise bad things happen. Just for future Brandon, when you go back in, delete 20 lines of code.
Well, I mean, if you delete the code, you'll get a compiler error. But yeah, it was an interface that we have an interface in Maui.core that's called asynchronous handler, because some of our handlers have to do some async await stuff. And unfortunately, the way handlers are designed in .NET MAUI, it's all synchronous. It's all void methods that you override. And so there's no awaiting a command that goes down to a handler. So we have this async handler interface that we leverage in a couple places, certainly media element, camera, any place where there's going to have to be some IO work when we command something like take a picture. So yeah, I just copy pasted that interface. So we've got it twice, but that's okay. Like I said, it wasn't worth the headache. Uh, we quickly fixed a crash. Thanks, Sean. Android was crashing. We tried to do something clever here with memory allocation using array pool. If anybody's heard of or familiar with array pool, it's where you can share, like basically .NET will have an array that can be shared around all your different classes. So you don't always have to new up arrays, size them. But we tried to use that and we did it wrong. So we fixed that. We fixed that memory crash, as Sean did. Thank you, Sean. And then another bug fix. Oh yeah, this was the analyzer. So if you've ever installed the Community Toolkit and you've gotten yelled at because you didn't go to mauiprogram.cs and say .use Maui Community Toolkit, that's from an analyzer. And we have a similar analyzer for camera. So you have to go in same mauiprogram.cs and say .use Community Toolkit camera, I think, something like that. And again, I'll take the blame on this one because I went through and I refactored all the namespaces when we were trying to figure out what do we name this new NuGet package, right? Do we call it camera view? We could, but then what if we wanted to add some other camera feature in there? So we were like, let's just name it camera. And then the camera view will live inside the community toolkit at Maui.camera NuGet package. All makes sense. But I forgot to change the namespaces for the analyzer. So Gerald saved my butt there, and we pushed out version 1.3. Real rapid fire releases coming for camera. So all that should be good nowadays. And then more awesomeness from James. Alexa, he also contributed to fix a problem in our sample app around media element crashing. And this one will basically get rid of the volume bar, and it'll also, we've had an issue pop up where we weren't setting these values of media width, media height. So now those work too. So we've come a long way. And finally, we get to our latest release last week, version 9.0.2. I love how Gerald highlighted this is the Windows sample app redesign, which is true. Obviously, it has nothing to do with the NuGet package, but look how good our sample app looks, specifically on Windows. So huge shout out. Let's see. Yeah, it was Mohammed here who redesigned the sample app for us. And then, yeah, just a couple other bug fixes here. So there was a problem with masking text on Android. So yeah, we got some max text behavior, some icon tint color behavior bugs. So we're constantly improving. We're constantly releasing. We're doing our best. And thank you to everybody who's who's jumped in to help us out. But speaking of amazing people in the community who are jumping in to help us out, it's that time of year for core maintainer elections again. If you weren't around last year, thanks for coming, thanks for joining us. But last year we had our first ever core maintainer elections. We were looking for folks from the community to come join the team, and the best way we decided to do that was to, let's just say, basically open up to the world. And if I'm being real honest, I stole the Stack Overflow moderator elections and the way they do it. So basically the same thing here. If you're interested in joining the team, this is where, James, yes, I was gonna call you out, James, because James has been amazing. I would love to have you join the team. I'm voting for you. But just like James has done here, you can leave a comment and the community will get to vote. So kind of explain why you want to join the team, why you think you'd be a good addition. I put in here that we're looking for 2 new maintainers this year, because I expect we'll have about 2 or 3 rolling off of the team. I still have to follow up with the team to chat about who wants to stick around for another year, who wants to sunset and kind of like Pedro does. Like Pedro still is an awesome maintainer. He's just not necessarily on the team responding to emails and and Discord messages 24/7, but he's still around, still reviewing pull requests, and we can all still do that. But yeah, as a core maintainer, there are some we call them core team responsibilities. So check these out. The responsibilities really aren't much. It's basically join us here. You get to join us here on the monthly stand up, participate in discussions, triage issues, and kind of what we're looking for is just one activity a week. At least once a week, jump into the toolkit, see if there's an issue that you can fix, see if there's a pull request you can review. You know, this is all volunteer. This is all um, people like us. We do it because we love it. We don't get paid for this. Uh, we just want to help the community. So if you have an hour or so a week to dedicate to the community toolkit, come in here, leave a comment, let everybody know why you're awesome. And maybe there will be other folks like George. George already voted for James, Neo Matrix. Excuse me. I shouldn't have had that soda. I am. There we go. Excuse me. So yeah, George, awesome to see you here. You've been incredible contributing features like avatar view. So maybe George, you want to jump in? We also have such just amazing contributors like we'll bring them up on the screen. Kenji's done a ton of work for the pop up. Would love to have you join, Kenji, if you're around. And just to highlight, here's James, Neo Matrix. If you haven't met James before, he's been on the stand up to show off Media Element and also George. Incredible, did a ton of work for Avatar View and amongst other things. So come join us if you can, and we'll wrap that up next month. So voting goes on all through July, and on our August stand up is when we will stop or cut off the voting, and at that point, whoever has the most votes wins. So I'll be sure to shoot out some tweets, post on LinkedIn, make sure folks know about it so that everybody's aware. Tell your friends. Is it's a fun project. We've spawned a few MVPs. We have actually a bunch of MVP renewals on the team. So if that's something that's interesting too, it's a pathway to becoming a Microsoft MVP. Unless you're me and they kicked me out because I work for AWS. Okay, well let's jump into some of these today that we have on the agenda. And this first one, speaking of media elements, speaking of James, Neo Matrix, um, this is a proposal to hook into the media element event and know the full screen status. And Cliff, kind of what I was thinking today was we would review it, vote on it, but we don't have enough for a quorum. So
No.
you and me can vote. but but really, what we're looking at is adding a new bindable property, full screen property, and then when full screen changes, we'll fire off this event. So we've got a interesting. This is an example from Xamarin, the Xamarin Media Player. So okay, kind of looks like we're following in those footsteps. And what I love here is James has already chimed in, said this looks great, and Victor's one of our core maintainers has done a ton of work with James on the media element. So I love.
He's got a link there to his implementation already.
Holy cow, James, you're incredible. Let's see. I wonder if there's an easy way to see. We'd probably have to do a pull request to compare branches. Uh, Unless somebody knows more about GitHub than I do, and we can do like a preview pull request. But yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah.
I don't know how to find it. All right, James, you're incredible. I'll tell you what. Why don't we could do an async vote? Well,
He's
I guess
saying,
since we're here,
he's saying you go back. He says in the chat, you go back and then click 12 commits ahead.
go back. Whoops, that was forward.
Yeah.
Wait, where am
Where's the link?
I'm totally lost. All right, I must have
Okay.
accidentally closed it. Click on 12 commits ahead.
There you go.
Files changed. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. That's why we need you, James. That's why we need
Yeah.
you on the team. Cool. Um,
So add in
so we're looking at, so this is the sample, and iMedia element would add full screen state. Okay, so adding it as an enum, adding the event full screen state changed. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. I like that take on it. I'm interested to see what states do we have. Full screen
uh,
state event args. There we go. Full screen default. Okay,
is
interesting.
the plan there to add more states then, or
That's my thoughts
I'm just
exactly right.
wondering,
Because
is there any other states? Does it need to? Why an enum is, well, obviously because it's descriptive, but just wondering if there's a thought in his head as to adding more states later,
yeah, and
a windowed or
I'm,
something, but
I agree that.
that only work on desktop and possibly other
Oh,
ones.
interesting.
Yeah, windowed maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Minimize
because
would be suggested. Yeah, minimize could work if you want to minimize it. Yeah,
oh
okay.
yeah, for desktop.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I'm with you, Clint. I was kind of thinking the same thing because to me, in my very mobile centric world, not even thinking about Windows desktops, was it's either full screen or it's not. So that's a bool. It's a true or false. But yeah, if there's other states that we can have, yeah, like there's
I suppose
George mentioned minimize.
yeah, I suppose it depends on what the platforms expose as well, doesn't it? So you kind of want to get one that we can call to as such. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool. All right. Well, I don't think we could do more than. I mean, you and I could vote, but we can't
Yeah.
approve it. We need and just
Oh,
so everybody's in the loop, our we got some bylaws because again, it's a very much a community project. We don't want one person to be able to uh, ram something through if at least half of us don't approve. So one of the rules we have is we'll vote on these new feature proposals as core maintainers, and at least 50% have to vote to approve it. So with Cliff and I here, I'll I vote to approve it.
yeah, me too.
All right, so that's two. So yeah, well, we can circle back to our community toolkit Discord channel, Glyph, and do an async vote and have some of the other maintainers leave a comment as to whether they approve or whether they want to see an API change first. I mean, even like we're saying here with the enum, I'd still approve it with this, and then um, even if we don't add another state in this pull request, it leaves the option to add in that minimized state that we were talking about earlier in a future pull request. So I like that forward thinking. way,
Uh,
way to go, James. Okay. Now, the next two were noted by Gerald and Sean. So let's see if we can chat about them. There's usually somebody here hanging out with us in the comments that knows more about this stuff than I do. Um, But I was just reading into this one from Gerald about being unable to capture the image. And here, let me post this in our chat here so folks can click the link and follow along. But long story short, what Gerald's saying here is we have a command called capture image command that will capture the image. But the only way for us developers to then get that image that was just captured is we have to subscribe to this media captured event. So captured image command will essentially fire this media captured event, and then in those event args is where you can find the image you just captured. And I agree, Gerald. It's very convoluted. Certainly something we missed when first playing around with it. But the good news is everything does work. But the better news is we can make it work better. So what's really cool is also um, Hope I'm pronouncing this right. Polinsev, uh, thank you so much, has commented here that says, hey, there's actually a pretty easy workaround. You can use the event to command behavior that is also in the community toolkit to essentially turn that media captured event args event into a command, and then you can use it in the style of MVVM. So we got a workaround, which is great. Nobody's blocked, which is also good. But yeah, it's certainly one of those things I think we can make better. Um, I don't know, Cliff, have you had a chance to look into
I've not
this
had a
or?
chance to play with it yet. I know I use camera view in one of my apps, but I used the Maui dot camera. I can't remember who developed that. That's been around for a little while now, isn't it? Which works well, but it's got some issues where it locks up every now and again. So I do want to take it out and bring in the community toolkit version. I've just not had time. But it is on my to-do list. So now I'm injured and possibly not going to work, I might have a bit more time on my hands.
Oh God. I hope you're better. I'm thankful you're here, but
Yeah, yeah.
go go see a doctor, man. What are you what are you doing here? Uh, okay, so yeah, this is something that's on our radar. We'll be digging into it. If anybody in the community wants to join in, if you have ideas about how to implement it, let us know. Or if you're like James and you've already implemented it, open up a PR. That's cool too. Okay, and then we have a discussion. Sean added the needs discussion tag here. But we'll probably circle back with Sean next week again, unless George, James, anybody in the comments knows more about this. But basically, let's see. So the good news is Sean's provided a workaround. So again, nobody's blocked. Um, but the idea here, let me remind myself. Yes. So like, if you wanted a touch behavior to have basically you're not reusing the behavior, but you want to have the similar functionality. So like every time you use touch behavior, you always want the animation duration to be 250 milliseconds. You always want it to be easing cubic in, out, whatever it might be. Sean shows how you can essentially create your own, so inherit from touch behavior, and then you can basically reuse that. Like he calls it grid touch behavior here, grid touch behavior, and then similar with styling. Styling and behaviors are an interesting issue in .NET MAUI because, correct me if I'm wrong here, Cliff, I don't think behaviors support styles out of the box or vice versa. There's something with it where because you can apply them to multiple controls, the Maui team didn't give us that option. Am I way off
I'm
here?
I'm not sure, to be honest. You're stretching my knowledge of the internals of Maui.
Oh wait, no, I see what Sean's saying here. You can define a style, and the style includes touch behavior. Ooh, I don't know if I would do that. uh, yeah, that would certainly work, but I could see future bugs popping up again from reusing behaviors. So one of the things, yes, okay, I'm back now. This is where things get hairy. So if you reuse behaviors, the way we've designed our behaviors in the community toolkit is we will automatically set a community toolkit behaviors binding context for you. This is not the default for behaviors in .NET MAUI. .NET MAUI, you're supposed to assign the binding context manually for each behavior. Um, and so what would happen is if you added touch behavior into a style and then added that style to multiple components, assuming it's all the same instance of touch behavior, the way our logic will work is the first control that this style is assigned to, and thus the touch behavior is assigned to, that touch behavior's binding context will be that first control's binding context. Apply that style to another control, a different view, a different button, whatever it might be, then now that touch behavior that you just added to that other label, button, image, its binding context is going to be the same as
The first one.
the previous touch behavior's binding context. So things get weird here. Um, and if I'm being real honest, I, I, my vote would be to make a breaking change for when we add .NET 9 support, where we stop assigning binding contexts for behaviors automatically. It's a pretty big breaking change. We're gonna have some folks upset, which is totally fair, because it'll force you to add some extra code. So there's ways we can do it with adding an analyzer. But the reason I say that is um, we have a lot of issues open around touch behavior and its binding contexts. When you get into things like collection view, these virtualized views, um, it doesn't handle that as expected. And so it's one of those like we could keep iterating on this and we could put the flag in the ground and say, nope, the community toolkit, we're going to make life easier for everybody. We're going to buck the trend that .NET MAUI recommends, where .NET MAUI says if you're adding a behavior, you got to set its binding context manually. We're kind of the outlier here, and it's it's one of those like future bugs are going to come from this, and we'll never get it perfect. We'll never meet everybody's expectations. So it might be something where we break that in the future. But TBD, we haven't made a decision on that. Feel free to chime in, let us know what you guys think. Um, but
Yeah,
it's
I get the arguments both ways. We don't want to break people, but equally being an outlier and doing it differently could confuse people. So it's kind of a damn if you do, damn if you don't. And when .NET 9 comes out, it's a perfect option because when you change the major number, everyone expects breaking changes. So as long as we document it and say and scream and shout about it, if the argument goes what you need to do, then you should be out. Okay.
yeah, and there's something like we could always kind of have a bit of an off ramp. So like with .NET 9, we'll break it, but we could still add in, we've got the MAUI options. So when you
Yeah.
say use MAUI Community Toolkit, yeah, we could put an option in there to say like enable legacy behavior binding context. I don't know what we'd name it, but something like you could, instead of having to break all your code, you add in that one line of code to say like, I want to opt in to the legacy way of handling it. And then maybe in .NET 10, we break that functionality. So, or we remove that option, remove um, that legacy behavior. So we can always do something like that. Because again, like this is basically playing a game of whack-a-mole now where it's like, well, we've gone against what .NET MAUI recommends by trying to guess what control binding context you want to be using. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And as new controls come, as things become more virtualized to help with memory management, it's one of those like it'll be a never-ending battle. And it's all because we kind of just well, we inherited the decision from the Xamarin Community Toolkit is, but I was also a maintainer there, so uh, it's all my fault.
There's times when you need to make a breaking change to kind of make it work and kind of make it easier to fix these bugs and problems in the future. And touch behavior does seem to be one of those areas where it generates so many bugs or confusion amongst people as to what it's doing. It'd be a good way to kind of fix that by sort of going back to what is recommended by the core team. So I'm all for it. I'm
Yeah,
all for adding an option such that it can be, not break everyone really bad, and they've got an option to do it. Or we do the option the other way where you opt into having rather than opt into legacy where we are breaking people and they've got to put it in. We do it the other way around. They opt into the new way. I don't know. It's kind of not sure. I think we'd have to have a vote on that.
yeah, and there could be something where like I'm not an expert on analyzers. I've written them, but don't ask me how I did it because I couldn't tell you. But yeah, like if we look at the way our behaviors are set up, we have this base behavior, and so all of our community toolkit.maui behaviors inherit from this. And so it's pretty straightforward. Well, again, if you're good and smart and can write analyzers, uh, really all we have to do is look for this base behavior implementation, and the analyzer could flag that and say, I see you're not defining your own binding context. And maybe that's just a suggestion, not even a warning, or I don't know. But there's other ways we can make it easier. But
Yeah.
certainly, I think it's something that we should move on from. We should encourage the community to kind of normalize the expectation that you've got to set your own binding context on your behaviors, since also that's what the .NET MAUI team wants.
And it
But
aligns with that as well. So if there's a behavior in the .NET MAUI team on a core control, then they're having to set it there. So it kind of makes it aligns it a bit better, doesn't it? So yeah, I think it's something that we need to think about coming into .NET 9, which isn't far away. November will be here very quickly, won't it?
that is very true.
Yeah.
So yeah, if circling all the way back to the elections, if you know anybody who's good at writing analyzers and source generators, send them our way. We'll take them. Okay, so that's actually not the last one. I forgot to update because I have a pull request hot off the presses for Maui markup. So let me do this on the fly right here. We'll grab this link, edit this page. Brandon, and this is add style of T, constructor overload. This is one I'm a bit embarrassed to admit that it took me 7 months to open this pull request. Let me share the link in our comments here too. So we'll say add constructor overload, share the link, boom. So this was, uh, I technically opened the proposal, but it wasn't proposed by me. I think this was VJ. Yep. So VJ had this cool idea. He's like, hey man, like why don't we do this where we have a style, or how should maybe I should back this up. In Community Toolkit and Markup, we have a class called Style of T that inherits from style, the Maui style, but it essentially allows us to make styles more easily in C sharp. Because if you've never created the style in C sharp before, you might not know to do that. You say new style, open parenthesis, and then you have to declare the type. So you say like how this is here, like new style type of T. Um, it's a bit janky, whereas style of T just works. So this is what we got in the toolkit. And VJ was talking about some of the rough edges, corner cases he was running into, like, hey, maybe I already have a style, but I want to use it in style of T. So what if you just let me pass one in? And I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. So I opened this proposal. And because I also had the idea was, why not also add an implicit operator so you can just cast back and forth between the two. So if you have a style, you could just cast it and then we'll return new style of T for you. So you get kind of the best of both worlds. And that's what I've implemented here. Whoops, that's not the right link. Where is the pull request? There we go. And I haven't even looked at, like, this is hot off the presses, so I'm not sure why it's failing. It might just be sometimes CI pipelines fail for no reason. We just say run it again until it passes. But basically, all I've done here is jump down to style. So I've added the implicit operator. And so now you can cast back and forth, and you can see that in these unit tests I've added. So if you want to say var style equals parentheses or cast style of type label, then we'll do that for you. And you can see like they're the same style. And you can go back and forth. You can even like a type of label style. So label type of style type of label. You can cast that into style of type view, and that's still kosher. But if you go down here, you can look at some of the negative cases. Whoops, ran right by it. So things like if you have a button style, so you say new style type of button, and then you try to assign that to be a style type of label, we're going to throw an argument exception, and we're going to say, no, we don't do that. We can't do that for you. So um, I think it's good to go. I was hoping we could like review it, approve it live on the stream, but maybe we see what failed. Well, welcome to our world, right? This is where we live as maintainers. Is coming in here. What broke the build? The process cannot access a file. I think this is just a silly. I think this is just a rerun it.
Yeah.
Rerun it. So again, Cliff, if if you don't have the time, you're injured. I get it. You also have better healthcare over there than I do here in the States, so you can go see a doctor without crippling medical debt for the rest of your life. Uh, if you have the time to check this out, let me know what you think. I decided to Sean. Sean tends to review most of my markup.
Sean's ill. He's not well as he either. I mean, we're all falling apart. I think it's
Suddenly we need 10 new maintainers.
Yeah.
But yeah, or if anybody out there in the community, certainly VJ, if you're watching, check it out. Make sure this is what you're looking for. This will help resolve the edge cases you're running into. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, really, the most code that was added here was just like I had to add a bunch of mocks and update our unit tests because of how .NET MAUI changed how they do app theme or handle app theme bindings. And so we hit the same bug in the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit that I fixed about a month ago. And so when I saw tests failing that had nothing to do with this PR, I was like, oh, it's app theme bindings? All right. So I basically copied and pasted a bunch of mocks, the same mocks that we have in the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit over the MAUI markup, and then everything turned green. So these are there's some noise in here for some of these base classes, like these helper classes. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just an implicit operator that uses the new constructor and then the new constructor here. And all it's doing is just a quick type check. So as long as type of T is assignable to what you're passing in, like we saw earlier, you can't pass in a button style into a label style. That will just blow everything up in MAUI. So we'll throw an argument exception and let you know that the type has to be proper. But that's about it. That's about all we got on the agenda. Cliff, what do you think? Anything else?
No, there's quite a few kind of proposals that were in or discussions, should I say, and proposals that I need to go through, but I'll bring up for next month. I didn't get time this week to sit down and go through it, sadly. But I want to title it up because it seems to have grown again to 20 pages of proposals and the likes. A lot of them are questions that have been answered. So I'll clean that up. I'll spend an hour tomorrow and go through that, clean that up. But there's a few that were that I closed before that people have now come back kind of months and months later and saying, why has this been closed? I really need it. But they've only been upvoted like once or twice. So our idea of kind of with the discussion pages, the fact that if you put a proposal in and it gets more than 10 votes, then we'll kind of look at it on the stream and go from there. But there's quite a few that only got 1 or 2 votes, so people are saying, I really need this. But yeah, I don't know, other than what we suggested and we've stuck to so far. So I've left them closed and put a comment and saying, this is kind of what we're planning to do, or this is what we have been doing. But yeah, George has put in the chat he wants to look at.
Yeah, I was just queuing that up.
George Orwellian, isn't it? Isn't it 1981? Or is that 1980? I can't remember.
Ooh. No, I don't remember. 1984. 1984.
84, that's it. Yeah. George always isn't he?
So, Cliff, just to button up that thought, because yeah, I saw a couple of those as well come through, and maybe what we do is we reopen them, because if they've been closed, it kind of signals to folks like, nope, we talked about this, we're not going to do it. But if there's a valid reason that we didn't think of when we chatted about it, like if we looked at it, we're like, that's silly. Why would anybody do that? That doesn't make any sense. And so we close it. But then somebody's like, well, no, you use it like this. You guys are way over here. The real usage is over here. I think we could just reopen it and
Yeah, I mean, I just
and then
chucked
let
the
people
link.
vote on it.
The one I did the other day, and we ended up with, I chucked it in the chat, the StreamYard, excuse me, the StreamYard chat. But that is basically it's going through it, and it got, I think it was only 2 or 3 upvotes. It was a lengthy discussion about it. It got a couple of
Mm.
upvotes, and then kind of got left alone. And it was from 2022 to November 23 was when I closed it, and then from November 23, it was last week that they said, actually, why did this get closed? So yeah,
Yeah, because like Pedro did open up. We still have the PR open.
yeah,
It's it's the second oldest one. Whoops.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, this was Pedro playing around with it, and gosh, this has been a long time since we've chatted about it. Gosh, almost a year now. But
So,
yeah, I
yeah,
remember when we chatted about it, it was like, okay, but what if we want to do this? And it this implementation kind of quickly we found a bunch of holes in it, which not a problem because again, somebody smarter than me that knows how to do source generators could easily knock those out. But you know, I think the original plan here, as Pedro's saying, like this will be private for now. So the idea was let's get something, let's merge it into the toolkit, and then we could grow it and see where does it work for what we're doing to help us generate these bindable properties, and then we could add in the features that are missing. And um, so like, Cliff, if this is something you're interested in taking over, is Pedro's still around. We love you, Pedro,
yeah.
but certainly, yeah, if you want to run with this, and Vlad's actually already approved it, so this is something we can merge with not much. I would say pain. Pain's not the right word, but uh, the word I'm looking for is consequences. Like we can merge this, we can play around with it internally, and start iterating on it. Uh, just source generators are hard.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, I'll
uh,
reopen it then, and then we can look back into it, and I'll try and dig into it and see what I can find. Because there was quite a bit of chat, but it's gone on for so long that it failed our test of needing kind of the community to say yes, I want this. So that's the reason it got closed, and at the bottom you'll see the fact that's why I closed it. So, but I'll reopen it, and we'll look back at it.
cool. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, community.
Try it now.
Thanks for reminding us. Thanks for keeping us honest. And then yeah, we've got a couple minutes. So George, 1981. Change the value of comparing. Oh, I did see this. I don't know why this wasn't already approved because this is just a sample app, right, George? I don't think this is anything in the library. Yeah, just the page. So double check the review on the fly. This is one. If I'm being honest, George, I think I looked at this on my phone. It's like, yeah, that looks fine, but let me wait till I'm sitting down at a computer just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Because yeah, it's literally just a sample app where George points out here that um, it it's not really accurate. Whereas when he fixes it, I thought I saw a screenshot of the fix. But anyways, so what? Sold. Thanks, George. We can approve it. Why not? We'll get that on auto merge. So hopefully we don't have a silly break in the CI pipeline where we have to rerun it again like we just saw earlier. But yeah, that's an easy fix. Cool.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, George.
Yeah.
Thanks, thanks, James, for joining us as always. And Steve's always here. Steve Grady, uh, always here hanging out with us in comments every week. Love it. Appreciate you. Cliff, it's great seeing you, man. I hope you get
All right.
better. I hope nothing's broken. Don't.
No, I think I've just pulled a muscle really badly. So I think painkillers and a good night's sleep, and I should be good. We'll see.
There we go. That's
Yeah.
getting old sucks, man.
It does. It
I
does.
I hurt myself sleeping nowadays. It's you just wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, why does my back hurt? Why does my neck hurt? Like
Yeah.
all I did was sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So,
I'm
yeah.
pushing 40. Oh,
I'm 50 next year. So yeah, big 50 next
holy
year.
cow! Congrats.
So that's yeah. No, I don't want to be. I want to go back to being 21 again.
But with like the same memory and the same bank account and the same like
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
reputation. Yeah, like just I want my body clock to go back to where I don't hurt myself sleeping anymore.
Yeah. Be
But
nice.
happy to be alive. It's a
Yep.
beautiful day. Never going to complain about that. So,
No,
uh,
definitely.
yeah. Thanks everybody. Thanks Cliff.
Yeah.
Thanks George. Thanks Sean. Thanks Steve. And we will see you next month back at our usual time, the first Thursday of every month at 12 p.m. Pacific time.
And
And thanks again, everybody.
vote for the maintainers. Come on, let's see you in there.
Yes. Vote, vote, vote.
See you all next week.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye now.